In this video, I'm gonna share what is a monetization model, and I'm specifically targeting this video toward service providers, professionals who sell their time and their expertise. So I'm going to start with what a definition of a monetization model is and lay out what it is. And then I'm going to dive a little deeper into how to choose one that's in alignment with your personality. I'm going to also share some of the problems that you can run into as you're deciding on a monetization model. And of course, I'm going to get into the solution to those problems, as well as the 4 key factors to consider as you're designing your business monetization model and also looking to scale it or grow it. Let's go. First and foremost, what is a monetization model? Well, my definition, and I made this up, it is the mechanism by which you turn your magic into money. Now, you may have heard me talk about this before, but I use the term magic very intentionally because it can seem like magic. The things that come naturally and easily to you can seem like magic to others and can feel like magic to others. And to you, it might seem like no big deal at all. You might not even realize how valuable your magic even is. Another version of monetization could be to turn your time and your effort into money. Now, I don't like to focus a monetization model on time or effort because when you do that, you can end up exhausting yourself. You build a whole business that requires more of your time and effort. Now, when I talk about monetizing your magic, I use that term very intentionally. I use it because a lot of times people try to monetize their time and their effort instead. And that's really common. Monetizing your hours, your sessions, your outputs, really focusing on the things that take time and effort end up creating a business model that you might want to try to escape from. The kind of business where you can't wait to get home at the end of the day and forget about it or take a vacation. And instead, what I want to invite you to consider here is a business model, a monetization model, whereby you love what you do so much that it doesn't even feel like work. And so that's what I mean by monetizing your magic instead of your time or your effort. Now, some of the problems that people often run into when they're figuring out their monetization model is number one, that they don't have clarity, that there's confusion around it, that you start to create this Frankenstein of a business where a client needs this, so you create this thing, or this client needs that, so you create this other thing. And you start to build a business in service of clients, which is actually a good thing, but such that there's not a clear and cohesive strategy anymore. And you are only responding to the needs of the market without really checking in internally with what you really want to do and what your vision is. Another issue that I see a lot is siloed offerings, meaning you have A, B, C, D offering, and they're not connected in any way. And they're actually exclusive, like you buy A, or you buy B, or you buy C, or you buy D, or E, or F, or whatever. And that's what I did for the first 7 years of my business. And it was good as long as I only had A, B, and C, but it got really complicated once I started adding D, E, F, G, H, I, Y, and Z, right? And so instead, what I look at with monetization is how can you build a model where A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, where you're creating an ascension model so that you end up with everything leading to some sort of what I like to call the big back end, some sort of ongoing monthly recurring thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Another thing that I want to look at up front or bring to light up front is that when we choose a model that's not really a good fit for us, it's kind of like wearing clothes that don't fit. Right? You can wear them and might even look good from the outside looking in, but if your tag is scratching your neck or your button is too tight or your toe is chafing on your shoe, it's going to be really uncomfortable. And you can tolerate it for a while, but it's irritating and frustrating. And when you get home at the end of the day, you want to, take it all off and get rid of it. And it can be much the same with your business. You can tolerate some misalignment. You can tolerate doing certain things that you don't love to do, but over time it becomes more irritating and frustrating. So we want to choose a model that's really in alignment with who you are. And then finally, another problem, and there are many more most likely, but these are the ones I see most often, is you want to have your model, in my opinion, be something that ultimately doesn't fully depend on you forever and ever, amen, all the time. Why? Because you might want to take a vacation. You might want to take some time off, or you might want to sell the business. You might want to walk away from the business without it going away. And maybe you don't, but I would invite you to consider that you might. And so what I'm going to share with you here is also something that can help the business live beyond you so that it doesn't die if and when you decide that you're done with it. Now, before I get into the 4 key strategies that I've uncovered for this, I want to invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe put a comment below or a question below that I might be able to answer. So the key of what I'm looking for here, and you may have heard me talk about this a lot before, is I'm looking for alignment. And I'm looking for alignment for your monetization model in 4 key areas. The first key area is suitability. Suitability is how well a model suits you, the leader, the center of the business, right? So for example, if you're someone who loves humans, who loves people, who's an extrovert, somebody who loves being the center of the party, the life of the party, right? Where it's at, then you definitely don't want to create a business model that requires you to be behind a computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Chances are you could do that for a little while, but like I said earlier, over time, that's going to become frustrating, irritating, and you're going to end up resenting the business. So suitability is looking at models that suit you, such that the day-to-day operations of the business that you would have to undertake are in alignment with your personality, your skills, your talents, your passions, what you like, what you don't like. All right, so I also often call that internal alignment. The second thing you want to look at is stability. Stability is, does the business have a roller coaster revenue model, or does it have stable monthly recurring revenues? In my opinion, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, monthly recurring revenues are the absolute holy grail of business because they give you the most stability. Every time you make a sale, you know you're going to be collecting for at least a year out. At least that's what I like to encourage. And so even in my business model, for example, my clients sign up for a 3-day retreat and then a 1-year program. And then when they complete that 1 year, I do a 2-year agreement, a 2-year contract. Why do I do that? Because I like stability, because it feels really good to not have to worry where the next dollar is coming in. I know what's coming in this month, next month, and 10 months out. And everything else beyond that is gravy. But I know that, for example, right now, I can cover my costs with what's already been contracted out. The third thing that we want to look at is scalability. And that means, is this model something that can grow? And in particular, something that can grow without you putting more time and effort into it. What makes a business scalable? In my opinion, that's operations. That's standard operating procedures, processes, and systems, SOPs, right? Putting things into place that reduce the amount of time that a task takes. Automate it, delegate it, delete it, optimize it, streamline it. All of that is part of scalability. Another piece of scalability is to potentially hire other people who can do things for you. And I do want to give you a word of caution here. I had the experience when my business first took off about 6 years ago, when it first had that initial big breakthrough to a new level. And what I did was, it got too much for me. Right away, it was overwhelming. There was too much to handle. So what did I do? I started hiring. I started hiring this person to handle this thing and that person to handle this thing. And every problem that we had in the business, I hired someone to deal with it. Now that might sound like a good idea, but what ended up happening is that I started putting out more money, spending more than I was even collecting myself. I started making less money personally as my business grew. Now that's not a terrible thing. That may make sense, but it got to the point where I was actually hurting financially because I was covering all of these costs. Now instead, what I could have done is, and what I've done since, is to create a more scalable operation, a more tightly streamlined operation, where instead of having a person do certain tasks, we've automated certain tasks. We've gotten software to do certain tasks. We've, had ways to do tasks that are simplified. We've gotten rid of tasks. I've let go of revenue streams and of offerings in order to simplify the operation. So scalability is closely related, in my opinion, to stabilizing the business. And then finally, the last thing you might want to look at is sale. Saleability. Saleability, meaning the ability of your business to be sold to someone else for them to operate it and them to run it. Now, this is kind of an advanced step, and not everybody necessarily wants to do that. But I invite you to consider the intellectual exercise of what would it look like to sell your business? What is the value of the business beyond you? What have you created, or what could you create that has value without you constantly putting your time and attention into it? I hope you've enjoyed this video on your monetization model. If you want to go deeper into this, I invite you to consider setting up a discovery call with me. If you're looking for ways to monetize your magic such that you're investing less time and effort but getting better outcomes, let's connect. You can do that at superstardiscoverycall.com. It's free and you can book that below.